Good evening. I want to test to make sure my mic is coming up, make sure that I am clear, especially since I'm at home. So I think it's showing. Yes, it is showing that I've got audio. Glad to have everybody in the chat. Glad to have y'all coming together tonight on a beautiful, wonderful post-election night. It is me from the house, and I got everything from the office that I needed except for the keyboard to actually unlock the computer. So if my video slows just a little bit, I ask for your patience in that plane of existence as we work to make sure that we can open this floor and have a little bit of conversation. And I want to talk to you about, first and foremost, the onus, why we're here, why we're actually doing this, and why it's important. I want to thank first and foremost the Infinity Fellowship for providing this space, providing these various platforms. I think we are on several platforms at once. I would encourage you and ask you to assist me by letting me know what platform you're coming in on. If you're comfortable by just saying, hey, I'm coming in on YouTube, or hey, I'm coming in on Facebook, What's happening, Joe? Good to see you, Joseph. Good to see you, man. I'm seeing everybody. You can say hello, and it should amalgamate all of these streams here, and even at the house here, it should let me get a good idea of where you're coming from. Good to see you, Andrew, coming in on Facebook. Good to have you in the place, man. Good to have you in the place. Good to see you, Joseph, again on Facebook. Facebook, we have more than a few platforms going. We've got the Infinity Fellowship. We've got Reverend Jeff Obafemi Carr. We also have Jeff Obafemi Carr for Nashville, for those of you who want to maybe unpack some other issues that are related to us locally, what's happening here, what's happening with you. Sister Stacy, good to see you as always. Good to have you on YouTube. So we got YouTube coming in. We got Facebook coming in. I'm pretty sure we have X coming in, which ought to be good to have as well as a support place. Justin Redden, good to see you, Doc. You're coming in on YouTube. We have space tonight, and I wanted to hold space tonight because it was important. It was important to the conversation on where we are as a community, as a country. When I say community, that unpacking of community can mean so many different things. But as we begin the process of unpacking, as we begin the process of getting to know what the future looks like, I want us to always do that in stillness. So say hello to somebody in the chat. You never know at Infinity who may be watching. You never know who might need a word of encouragement. You might never know who might be needing to speak a word of affirmation. We just don't know these things. But one thing we do know, and that is that we have committed to be a space of community tonight. And that is to be a space of community. Listen, I don't want to stay on forever. I have a long background, as you all know. Some of you may or may not know, in radio. I hosted and started a show called Let's Talk that was on the old WVOL, Oprah Winfrey station, back when I got trained on that in the early 90s. And that show became Straight Talk, and that show, Let's Talk, continued on several stations, most recently on 92Q. Good evening, T. Good to see you, CrossFit. Nice to have you on and joining us. Good to have you. Wherever you are, though, that background led to about 17 years of commentary on National Public Radio and other commentaries on Black Star Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered, Radio 1, TV 1, back in the day, and kind of hadn't gone into the microphone space in a long time. However, when people would say desperate times call for desperate measures, opportune times call for opportune measures. So I wanted to open up a portal tonight because we get a lot of people who come on the airwaves now. And as the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss pointed out, your cousin with the $12 microphone and a podcast does not equal news. We have to have trusted news sources. We have to have trusted media sources. And we've seen over the course of the last several months what happens when we don't have trusted sources. When we have people who are putting into the world both misinformation and disinformation. And now in a world of the internet where we all can have these conversations, it can be easy to mislead folks, and it can be easy to put a lot of information in the world that is not about necessarily spiritual practice or spiritual growth or anything similar. So tonight, listen, I just want to unpack a little bit what's been going on with you. And what have you been experiencing as a result of last night's revelation? And as a result of this morning's revelation, for those of you who fell asleep at some point and just said, you know what, it's time for us to just trust that everything is going to be all right, and you just let it go regardless. Yeah. Many times we don't get the opportunity to unpack how we're feeling about events that equal trauma. So I know in a few minutes I'll be joined by a couple of people who will be calling in and who will be adding to the conversation. If you registered, you got the call-in number, and I just want to welcome those of you who will be calling in tonight. And if you'd like to call in now and attempt to get that line, I want to open the first few minutes and say, let's do that. I had a couple of calls come in earlier. Brother Carnell, I think, called in, had another call that came in from Brother Anton. If y'all want to call back and just open that line, y'all can call back and open that line now. The number is area code 629-204-HELP. That's area code 629-204-HELP, which also is spelled digitally in our numeric system as 4357. So I'll depend on somebody from Infinity to help me out with that, since I don't have our tech team in, and they'll just type in that number for me. If you write it down, one of you awesome Infinite Life streamers who are here with me in the space tonight, 629-204-4357. And we'll see how we can make this work. Again, we're expecting a few calls in a few minutes after 8:30. And it's good to see you, Sister Tiffany. Good to see you coming in on YouTube. Again, if you're here, you're checking in, go ahead and hit the reshare button, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button. If you'd like to subscribe and kind of stay in touch with us, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let us get into this groove of conversation. Initially, to get us going, I'm interested in getting your thoughts on what your feelings were when you discovered the outcome of the election. I won't take for granted whether you're Democrat or Republican. Those of you who know about Infinity in this space, you know that we don't really draw those lines a lot. But I'd love to get some of your initial thoughts. And I think here I'm going to try to go to our phone for our first phone call and see how it goes. And I think on here we've got Brother Terrence. Hello, are you there? All right, I'm going to try it and see how it opens up again. Okay, there it is. Okay. All right. Brother Joseph said that he felt sick. And Brother Joseph is watching us on YouTube. If anybody else felt like that, please let us know. When you feel distress, you can also feel physically sick, physically ill. And I wonder, Joseph, what that was like to unpack that. Again, if you have a comment, by all means, drop that comment into the chat box, and I'll actually put up some of those comments so that you can know what other people are thinking, what other people are feeling. And again, I'm encouraging you tonight. This is a safe space. This is a place where we gather to have conversation, and this is a place where we can share and we can have dialogue and discourse. I do lay a couple of ground rules. I know that there are some young people, and by that I mean young people who do watch, and they watch to learn things from our elders in many ways, and it's important for us to keep that kind of energy clear. So, you know, you might have awakened thinking MFGD and every kind of other thing, but just for the sake of the stream and so we don't get banned on any of our platforms, go ahead and start putting those comments in there. And I can make sure we got that. I think I've got one of my old commentators from the radio days. I think I've got it. I think I got Brother Carnell in there. Are you there, Brother Carnell?
You got me right here, bro.
All right, man. Tell me about what's happening, man. Tell me about your responses to everything.
I can't tell you too much, man. The only thing I can tell you that I'm kind of in a state of mourn right now. You know that she lost as bad as it was. I don't know what happened, but it's apparent that white women didn't show up.
Well, did you have an expectation that they would? I mean, I think last election it was 56% of those who would classify themselves as white women. About 56% of them voted for Trump, and at this time we found out about 52% voted. So we we lost 4 percentage points, but they still primarily went in the columns to the Trump camp. Did that surprise you in any way?
Yeah, I haven't seen the number. I'd like to see that breakdown, but it really did because I was thinking that all the Republicans that endorsed her, that would make a big difference right there. But apparently, they went a different way. I think, from what I understand, they voted some of those abortion bans in 7 of the 10 states, but they parsed it and didn't vote for and voted for Trump as well.
So it seems as if they split a lot of their votes. May have voted for the abortion ban, but then in Florida, say for instance, they put the law in place to say you had to have a 60% threshold to codify a woman's right in that sense to have an abortion, and it hit at 57%, so it was just shy of being able to pass.
And that's what the folks know. Apparently, that's what they know is the reason why they put that 60% in there.
Yeah.
Because that was a pretty tough threshold to pass. But so it didn't really fail. They just had a threshold in there that was high enough for them not to reach.
Surely.
Maybe a couple. So, but anyway, I just saw here. I think tomorrow said 100 progressive groups are gonna get together, and they're supposed to get together and start strategizing. So I don't know what this is about. I don't know if you know about that or not.
Yeah, I think.
Anybody else on?
I think strategy is going to be important going forward for anybody. I think that's going to be important to do something, because right now it seems to be there's a lot of rage and frustration out there and disappointment. And in the comments here that I'm seeing from people, I see that Justin Redden, I'm concerned about the safety of my soon-to-be born black son and my immigrant wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real concern.
I'm not sure if the younger people really don't understand what's really going on, what's really happening, how serious it is. Because when he was the president before, it was some chaos, and I don't know how many millions of people died. I just heard looking at something here on what's her name, lady up at Georgetown talking about when Trump was the president during the first 3 months or so during COVID. More people died than it was in, the Vietnam War and Korean War and a bunch of other wars.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe. That's what she said. She did the research on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. It kind of scared me too a little bit about the federal workers, And my only hope, Jeff, is that I hope, and I looked at it earlier today, but these darn TV stations so misleading because they said that the House went to the Democrats, but then now found out it didn't. So they still up in the air. But that would be the only hope because that's who appropriates the money. You see. And but all these federal judges, man, I'm telling you what, that's a scary thing right there. You're talking about kids and grandkids and everybody else. Oh man, that's ugly.
Well, unpack that though, Carnell, in terms of what that means. When people say, well, it can't be that bad. It's been like this for all the years that we've been in this country. It can't be that bad. If something happens, you can always sue somebody. If you lose your job, you can always go to the courts. But why is it vital? Because you seem to have this knowledge. Why is it vital that we think about things like federal court appointees?
Well, I was talking to a buddy called me this morning in Kentucky, be in the automobile business. And I was talking, and he just said, oh, and then I was trying to let him know about the Supreme Court and how, he said, forget about that right there. I said, no, that's the main thing. That's the only thing that really saves us from getting the civil rights bills that we've had. I said, that's very important. I said, you're very selfish in the way you're looking at this thing because what about your kids and your grandkids' future? We might not see it, but when these two judges, when a couple of judges, probably within the year, no later than 2 years, resign, and he put these young crazy people in there, that's gonna be a whole 50, 60 years, you see. But it means a lot of the judge. A lot of the judges he appointed. Okay, so it's very important. The judicial system is very important because you can go there and appeal it up to the Supreme Court. Next thing you know, boom, that's it. It don't mean nothing. And that's what these folks know right here now. That's why all the folks got money. They know if they get up to the Supreme Court, they're going to win. You know, because it's fixed, man. It's fixed. And like you boys here on the program, shit, this ain't no democracy. You know, this is a republic. You know, this when you talk about the electoral college, that's terrible right there. That's something else that needs to go because, you know, your vote don't count really. And that, I heard them say in New York, Jeff, that 7 million people don't vote because it doesn't make any difference no way.
7 million. 7 million.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's almost like Tennessee. People say, well, why should I vote? You know what I'm saying? You know, why should I vote? I'm outnumbered, and you know what difference it's gonna make?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's about the future, man. It's not about us always, and that's what when you talk about federal judges and everybody else. You know, we got to think about the future, and we got to let the other younger people know how important it is too. Because when something happens, and you might not intend to do something, or intend to go to court, it could be job related or health related or anything you go to court for. The next thing you know, you'll be shot down. You know.
Man, that's legit. That's legit.
That's all we've had for a while, man. But now, if you look at these guys, man, since as an example, when they did what you call it, the corporations are citizens for America, corporations are a person. You remember when the Supreme Court ruled that?
Yeah. I think was that Mitt Romney or somebody was saying corporations are people too.
Well, that's Robert, the Supreme Court, then the one who approved it. I forgot who went to court, but the bottom line is that's when all this stuff changed with gerrymandering and everything else because all the groups they actually you can go and put $1 zillion into a campaign. That's where the 504, what's called 504C come from.
Yeah, 501c4. Which and
501c4.
when you talk about C4s, I mean literally, we won't crack it open too long because I know I got some people who want to call in too and talk. But one of the things that
I thought is anybody on there now?
no, we don't have the hold system in place yet. That's coming. We're gonna have to expand this thing, Carnell. Everybody's been talking about getting back on the air. I'm gonna have to get a phone hold system if I go back on the airways with this talk show thing. What do you think?
I thought other people was already on the call.
Oh yeah, no, we're on there, man. We're in there now. We are on the live stream, so everybody's out there in there. We just got one particular line that people can call in, so I'm gonna open that line so they can get that. But I think what you said plays in local politics as well because there are a lot of movements that take place with 501c4s that do not have to disclose their donors, and we've seen that even with the recent passage of the transit bill referendum that happened now. The deadline to show what was not disclosed was set for today, a day after the election, after all the money had been spent. So something curious to unpack in the future. We might have a conversation about that, man, but I appreciate you calling in.
All right, bro.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right. Phone lines open now, you all, at, if you'd like, at 629-204-HELP. That's 629-204-4357. And from that place, I will let you know that, yeah, I see you. Sister Iris is clicking in. I'll put you up on the screen. Similar to Hillary Clinton shock, then it hit different because of her skin tone. That's the question that's on the floor. How are you feeling right now? How did you feel after you discovered the results of the election? And Iris is saying that she felt similar. The Spirit led me this morning to Justice Jackson's book, Lovely One. 2 powerful, authoritative black women at once. Lovely One, Justice Jackson's book. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Check that out. I'll leave the stream up so y'all can know. Again, like and share. Share everything that's happening in the chat today. We want to get your feelings on how you felt immediately after. When we talk about some of these stats, that we can bring up. I think I've got a stat sheet just so you all know. And I say this because you all know we're all about how do we make substantive change, but we also have to be informed about where we are. Somebody called me this morning. They were so troubled. They had gone to the store and they called me. They said, "Man, I almost got in an argument with these two women because I spoke to them. I hadn't seen them in a while. Said hello, and she said, "Man, we could have won this if we'd have just had the brothers." And I thought that that was particularly important and odd in some sense. I'm going to go ahead and take this next call. I believe this is a call coming in. And you are live on the radio airwaves. Can you hear me? All right, hold 1 second. Okay. You have to give us a call back. We're going to keep trying. This is a new system. I'm trying to work it out. But let me just go ahead and say, he said he was angry because he felt betrayed as a black man. He felt attacked and found a statistic online that sex by race in terms of voting. Shout out to Coach Donnie on IG that sent these stats in to me earlier today and actually posted them. That by race, the largest block of voters for Kamala Harris, 92% black women. The next largest block of voters, Kamala Harris, 78% black men. You go to the next block of voters, and it was 61% Latino women. But again, you see who shows up. 54% of Latino men and 59% of white men, 52% of white women voted Republican. So that's where the numbers are. This whole concept of perception was something that could be troubling as well. So we got Brother Craig on the line. I think you're there. Are you there, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. You're live on the air, man, with What Do We Do Now? What's going on with you, man? How you feeling about this thing?
I majored in political science in college, so I'm taking it kind of light for the most part. Not that light because I know who this is, and while I look at it as most people must have amnesia and forgot what a fiasco that previous Trump administration was. The issue is that we have a man who's about to shape, I don't know, this is a guesstimation, but like something like 60+% of our federal judicial branch of government, and that's including the Supreme Court justices. There are apparently 2 justices in the Supreme Court that are about to retire. So for the first time in history, we have one president who is about to possibly appoint 5 of the 9 Supreme Court justices that we have, which is the highest office in the land. As my government teacher used to say in high school, the King Kong gorilla killer, whatever they say goes, basically. So it's struggling in that regard. And he's bragged about appointing more federal judges than anyone. And that is shaping the nation judicially, appointing them the lifetime appointment, shaping the nation judicially for the next 2 to 3 generations. And as far as I'm concerned, based on the judges he's appointing, it is solidifying white supremacy in a really solid way and ensuring that they'll be in power and in control judicially, which is a big deal for the next 2 to 3 generations. But other than that, everything else he does can be undone. But that's not the biggest part. It's also that he's going to be one of the first presidents in a long time. Last time this happened was Barack Obama. But the country was in free fall when Barack Obama got the country like this. We're losing over 500,000 jobs a month, and there was nothing that could really be done on his part. He could do certain things, but for the most part, he had to worry about keeping the country alive. So he's inherited. He's not just coming in as the president. They have all branches. He's already got 3 appointments on the judicial branch. That's kind of on the Supreme Court. That's historical, and he stole one of those from his predecessor, President Barack Obama, and now he has the House and the Senate. So they can really do a lot of quote-unquote damage in terms of what they, whatever laws they want to get passed, no matter how unconstitutional, the checks and balances on it would be the Supreme Court, but if they got the Supreme Court in their pocket,
when it comes to voting, like the brother was saying before, unfortunately, we gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965 back in like 2013 or 2014. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg dissented from that. She's no longer with us. All right, rest in peace to her. And that's where I'm at with it. When I woke up this morning, I just knew my intuition. I shared it on my story on Instagram. My intuition ripped me hard and said, he won. I said I could feel it in the air. Like certain things, when I'm in tune with it, I can really tell when something either is about to happen or has happened. Sometimes I ignore it, but the older I get, the more I've learned, you got to pay attention to your intuition, man. It's on point. Surely enough, I turned on the TV and I was like, yep, there it is. He won. So, yeah, I mean, it was a tough battle. I think people didn't really realize what we were up against in terms of, if Joe Biden was going to step down, that's the real culprit. Not him, but just the Democratic Party. They should have had him step down in like January or February. She only had 4 months to mount a campaign, and I think she did a hell of a job considering she only really had 4 months. We may have expected a Barack Obama type situation. Well, here's a few things about that. First thing, surface level thing, but Barack Obama was incredibly charismatic. It still is. Not to say these people aren't. Anybody that makes it to a political office, just so you know, at the higher office or maybe a president, are very charismatic people. You'll feel it if you ever get around them or meet them. Trust me. But when it comes to that, he had a lot of time to endear himself, and he was an underdog. There was nobody that thought he was going to win until he had a chance to show who he was. Another thing he had at his advantage, I mean, admittedly he had a black wife and 2 beautiful black daughters, and that kind of like that whole picture of that black family. Like if she had a family, even if they were with her husband, if she had a son and a daughter, that might have. People don't want to think that it matters, but sadly, optics matter, especially in this country where people are extremely uninformed. What I would tell people to do before you start mounting a strategy, make sure you pay attention to what this man is doing. It's so many people that don't realize he inflated the defense budget by over $100 billion shortly after getting into office. So many people that don't realize that he fired the pandemic team in 2018 that his predecessor put in place in 2015. And then we had a pandemic in 2020. Well, why the hell do you think your predecessor put that pandemic team in place? It could be possible that he got information from scientists who are part of his administration telling him, hey, man, this is a worry. Mm-hmm. You got to put this in place because this might be coming. But those are just some of my random thoughts and ramblings. But it's, yeah.
Well, man, let me not to cut you off. Let me unpack something real quick because Stacey pointed out only 78%, and when we think about 78%, we tend to look at 78% of black men voted for Kamala. 98%, I think I had the thing 97, I think percent it was that black women that voted, but those were the 2 largest blocks. When you go down from there, nobody showed up. And we think about 78%. A lot of times we do think about, well, why is it just 78? Whereas in a political race, if you get 60% of the population, that's considered a landslide. 65% is considered an ultimate landslide and a mandate. And if we look at 78% and we're looking at these percentages leaning up to rounding up, that's 8 out of 10 people in a room that voted for somebody. And in most stats, that'd be a good thing. But sometimes we think about leaving those 12 points on the table. But when we see the overwhelming number of other people, even with those 12 points on the table, it didn't stop that sea of red from going across the country. So what do you think it is that's keeping other people from being supportive of Democrat policies, of supporting women's rights to choose, supporting the freedom to be able to pass laws that are local, that help from everything from zoning? What do you think that is what are you feeling about the tenor of the country right now and what you see when you see that electoral map in those 16 states that went for Kamala Harris and the rest of the country being a sea of red?
Well, Jeff, I would need a spreadsheet and a few whiteboards to really map that out for you, because we would need we would need a room and a few hours to really go through all the reasons why that is. When it comes to the whole, oh well, the brothers we could have pushed us over. Listen, I need you to understand something. Black people, so-called black people, as the status that they have us at, right? Are accounted for in this country by 14-15%. Now, those aren't our real numbers, because if you look at what they classify as white and black and all the different nations that they put under that, it's very misleading. But either way, for those who are accounted for, it's 78% of like 5% of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that's the first thing. Let's talk the numbers clearly. Black men are like 5-6% total of the voting bloc. White women are like 34%. White men are like 37%, so even if we had 95% black men, it wouldn't have made a difference to that degree. Sorry, it wouldn't. Now, that doesn't mean we couldn't have got us all out. Now, why black men aren't voting for her? The Democratic Party sadly has a lot to answer for when it's coming to what black men are concerned with. And I'll tell you straight up, I voted for Kamala because there's no way in hell I could vote for the other person. It was insane to me.
Sure.
But either way, I don't think I should have to qualify that. The main issue is that a lot of black men feel like their concerns are being left behind and left out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when you have all this rhetoric online with black men just never being heard and being told repetitively by their women that we don't care what you want. We don't care what you want. We don't care what you feel about what we do or how we think or whatever, and we don't care about your feelings, how you feel, and being all of this lack of care. And then until it's time for you to want something from us, now it's but you need to vote for this thing, even though we haven't spoken to any of your concerns whatsoever. And then when they voice their concerns, they get shamed for it. And that's another issue. When it comes to the American public, it's a lot of misinformation. American people, I don't know. It's sad to live in this world where we have computers in our pockets. People seem to forget that. We just call them phones now. These are computers. These are supercomputers in comparison to what we had even in the early 2000s. Okay, so what you have is the ability to look up what the powers of the Vice President of the United States are, what the powers of the presidents are, what bills have actually passed, what policies they passed during their presidency, and all these things. But if you want to base it off of, well, I felt better when this person was in office, and it's because, well, when Trump first started out, things were going great until the pandemic. Yeah, because he was riding on the wave that his predecessor created. He inherited 2.5% plus GDP growth. He inherited a country that was low on unemployment. To give Donald Trump credit for the first 2 years or 3 years of what you felt during his presidency would be like to blame Barack Obama for the 2009, 2010, and 2011 economy. It's the same.
Yeah.
The tariffs he did actually led to the inflation. The tariffs plus the tax cuts plus the increase in the defense budget that his top military leaders said they didn't even need, but companies like Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and Lockheed Martin really appreciated. Those are defense contractors in the United States, by the way. Those people, if you go and look at, I was watching it the day after he first got elected, like in 2016. If you go and look at it, those companies in November, man, their stock shot up right after he got elected.
Look, I got to stop you on that one, Greg, because you bringing economics into it, and we could go on all night, but I want to get to our next caller and then loop this thing back around. But I appreciate you calling in tonight.
All right, you're welcome.
All right, great job, man, great job. When we hear this, we see this, we feel this, we know this. Listen, we said Brother Terrence in there as a veteran with fraudulent student loans that were supposed to be forgiven and refunded, feeling like I'm going to just have to give up that hope. There are a number of issues swirling around here. When we talk about putting these in perspective, y'all, thank you, because what's happening is now we're starting to have this conversation about exactly what it is that has irked people about this election. Dr. Morris, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, good, man. Hey, thanks for calling in, y'all. On the phone, I have with me the first of a couple of guests that are going to be calling in tonight and giving us some perspective on this election, because there's perspective that we get on where we are and how we got here. And then there's a perspective that we get to in terms of where do we go from here and what do we do. One question that I want to bring up later is about what we should have in terms of hope, and should we have it. I met somebody today in another environment, in a work environment, that said basically, I don't want to hope anymore. And I thought that was hurtful. But Dr. Morris, how did you feel when you woke up this morning?
This morning, I woke up with this general sense of this is not unusual. When I thought about, that, black people, we wrestle with this throughout our history in the country, particularly as a black person, I'm speaking. We wrestle with this, and one of the examples, when I think back to it, I think about what happened this morning. I saw a neighbor, and the neighbor asked me, Jerome, are you upset? Are you okay? Really talking to you like that. And I basically want to say, African people, black folks, we struggle with this since our presence in this country. We have historical examples of how we've had to move that. We've always had to move in the area of freedom, and we've always knew that we had to wrestle with this kind of issue. For example, like historically, I use an example of when black folks during the Revolutionary War, in which there was this question of which side were the enslaved black population going to fight on, whether we were going to fight with the Continental Congress, the colony trying to get free from the British, or whether we were going to fight the British. But one thing was clear: we knew that the colonists were enslaving us, and so only 5,000 black people fought with the colonists, whereas with the British, 20,000 of enslaved African people fought with the British. And there's a book called The Forgotten Filth by Gary Nash. He writes about that. But I use that to say that we've always striving for freedom. What we have to do is, I think what this means is that we understand that we are going to continue to move toward freedom despite what happens, but also we're going to draw upon our strengths as a people and allow that to help guide us throughout this process. And so it's not the end of the world for us, because we know we are people of faith, and we draw from those in the past and what they taught us. And we have historical examples in which black folks have had to rely on themselves and know that we can't put our hope in a social structure that really didn't intend for us to be treated as human beings, and that we have to validate our own humanity and not be afraid of going into the darkness here. But we've always come out, and we're going to make it through.
Well, Doc, I don't qualify this. You're one of my guests tonight. If y'all are just tuning in, joining me on the phone line is Dr. Jerome E. Morris, who is the Des Lee Endowed Professor of Urban Education at the University of Missouri St. Louis, author of several books, expert in many areas, and also just an overall good brother. So I'm glad to have him joining us today. And we're talking, Dr. Morris, listen, if you have a comment that you'd like to drop on, I can put up on the screen. We've got a limited number of phone lines. We've got Dr. Courtney Williams coming up in a few minutes. But I'll open this floor up again for the phone calls. But please, by all means, share in the chat. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and share this. Hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Share this with somebody. Get the algorithm up. I see we've jumped exponentially in the number of people that are watching. Thank you all for being a part of this. Again, this is a place where you to voice and to hear others' concerns, yours and other people, and to have different perspectives on not only what happened, but as we move this thing forward, what will continue to happen going forward. And Brother Joseph, who is joining us on Facebook, he just affirmed something, Dr. Morris, and I want to, you know what, man, I'm at my house, man. I'm just going to call you Brother Jerome. Uh, Brother Jerome, man, something Joseph brought up was something interesting, especially we are in a capitalistic society. And this is something that may go to what Craig said, to what some other people brought up in terms of just the concerns about economics and the like. He said, I checked my investment account and it was way up. And he checked it, and he saw that the economy in terms of investment and what people make who invest in stocks and bonds may see their wealth increase. To unpack that a little bit, though, because is it a conundrum that we live in a society where the wealthy are continually getting wealthy? Those who have pensions, those who have investments in mutual funds and real estate, you're going to see this increase happen now because of this perception that the economy is going to get better. How ironic is that? How do we walk that line between not wanting to be in abject poverty but not wanting to be wealthy at the expense of other folks in this new environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was reading this morning, the markets jumped this morning.
Yeah.
That generally some anticipation with that, so that does happen. But the other thing too is it really points out the nature of racism, why people stayed in the game, particularly when you think about folks who were engaging in so-called drug dealing, and when other people were engaging in slave dealing, that it was seductive, it was not cathartic, it was enticing, because you see the profits from engaging in the slave trade, and that's what happened. And so you think about stock market increasing, and you see inequality, and you see injustices, and you see misogyny, you see homophobia, you see racism, you see all these things. Those things become tolerable. Folks can benefit from it. They just have to, like you say, not see the sausage getting made, but they like the sausage. I don't want to see it get made, though. And so that's the thing that happens here, is that we know injustices continue, so we turn a blind eye to what's happening because it's beneficial. And that's kind of what white privilege and the beneficiary of white supremacist structure, you know, they know, they're smart people. Many of them live in the most affluent school districts and study, but they see that they're hoarding resources, they're benefiting from their whiteness because there's property attached to it. But, you know, it's so beneficial and profitable that they just say, let me not even think about it. You know, so there's a lot to unpack that. And I know some other people can contribute to it. But that's what I can say at this time, Brother Jeff. I just got through teaching the class, man, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. And so I want to be fully here with you.
Hey, brother, hey, look, I appreciate you stopping through, and I appreciate you letting us know, because that perspective is very real, and especially I love that you always bring, you know, historic perspective to things. We need to have this understanding, and it's just been pointed out in the chat that these markets do go up, and it's not always because there's a shift. It's because you have the economy and you have the market, and the market actually predicts. It's predictive. It likes to see stability. It likes to know who's in charge. It likes to know the philosophy in charge, because that's how people go about investing their money, based on the environment that they see. And the market's predictive, you know, when we talk about that, and the economy can go up and down. But again, like you said, a lot of times we think about building wealth, but in America, at whose expense? And how do we all participate in a way that's not going to bring harm to others. While we enjoy that sausage, we definitely don't, that veggie sausage, even with veggie sausage, we don't want to see how it's made. All right, man. But thank you for that, man. How do you feel going forward? What's a prescription that you would give based on your experience and what you've seen happen historically? What would you give to people out there who are saying, I feel kind of hopeless. I feel like, the end of the world has come. What would you say to them?
I would say that one of the things that, as a people, that we've developed support structures, and we often had just what you were doing, man. We had the Black church. We've had faith-based institutions really were central. So we had the community, we have families, and we have the church, and these three were almost in a symbiotic way helping us cope through these moments. So you're playing a really important role, and you're really doing what our ancestors did in terms of fulfilling that. You're in a tradition, honestly. And so we have that. And so what we often did, we closed ranks. When I say closed ranks, we came together and we kind of loved each other and support each other and turned inwardly toward our own institution, not in an isolationist way, but in a way, in a communal way, so that we realize, hey, let me check on this sister, let me check on this brother, let me touch base with my family, allow me to make sure that I continue to build institutions like Infinity, continue to think about how do we build powerful educational spaces for our children. So that's one of the things that we've done. We've closed ranks, because when we close ranks and become communally interdependent and understanding using our gifts to support one another, and it kind of galvanizes a sense of identity among Black people. So that's kind of who we are as a people, because we really are a multitude of people, but we have similar shared social historical experiences that galvanize this sense of identity, peoplehood in us. And so this is what will be an outgrowth of that, but it's also, we got to, I think, use this moving communal ways for support each other. And that's really the way I think we move forward. Whatever this means, it's not the end of the world, but because we're going to create a new world after this. But what I want us to always know is that we're going to keep on marching on.
Absolutely.
We got you, we got me, we got everybody else on this call here who realize, hey, we need to debrief, we need to talk. So this is powerful what you're doing. You're operating in a tradition, as I think about all of it.
I appreciate it, man. It's appreciated, and you're doing the same, man. Keep your head up, and we'll check in with you soon, sir.
Okay, man.
All right.
Thank you.
When we talk about operating in that tradition, we talk about building community. One thing that I can say is that it's easy to build community when everybody steps up and does just their little part. Dr. Courtney, you there?
I am.
Okay, listen, y'all. We got a super special guest on the line here. One of our good Infinity folks, and it's Dr. Courtney Williams, who is with the Counseling Center at Vanderbilt University, also an independent therapist and business owner. And I just want to welcome you to the stream tonight and say thanks for taking the time to stop by and talk to us. Yes, it's great to have you. Let me ask you, Dr. Courtney, many people woke up today, the people that I've encountered in conversation, again, I've had work meetings, I've had conversations at the gas station, grocery store, and there was just this cloud that was hanging over people. And as a spiritual leader, as a person who has counseled people, I recognize that a lot of it was, yes, anger, yes, rage, yes, frustration, but it also felt like grief. And I don't know if anybody in here felt that in the chat today. You can type in, you can share that, but Tell me what your assessment has been of just, who you've encountered since yesterday, and even how you personally felt about the results of this election and where we are as a country, and then we'll unpack what it means to actually be in a state of grief.
Mm, yes. So one, I took yesterday off and I took today off for my own mental health. And for me, a lot of that was so that I could, rest and do what I needed um, to re-engage, to get back to work and to see clients and to show up and be able to support people. Because like you said, I do work with students at Vanderbilt, and I do work with Black women and girls in my private practice. So knowing just the impact that all of this is having, I know that I have to be 100% or as close to it as possible. So yesterday and today were days off for me so that I could rest and recharge. But I woke up this morning and I was in disbelief. I do think that it confirmed things that I already knew about, this world that we live in, the misogyny, the racism, all of the systemic issues that are centering white supremacy. I already knew that, and this decision just reinforced what I already knew. But I think there was a part of me too that felt really angry for having hope that a Black woman could be president. And so when you spoke about all of those feelings earlier, the anger, the rage, all of that, those are all wrapped up and tied into grief. I found myself just imagining what it could look like and be like to have a Black woman president, and just all of the exciting things that we were all looking forward to. So for me, it's about grief, but it's also about the anticipatory grief, like the things that we were looking forward to with Kamala Harris's presidency. So I think about those two things, and I anticipate those conversations with students that I'll see, with clients that I'll see in the coming days, weeks, just processing all of that.
Let me ask you, so there are people here, if you have a question for Dr. Courtney Williams, by all means type it into the chat now. We've got people who are joining us on YouTube, Facebook, people who are joining us on X. If you're able to type in a question, if you want to ask a question of our mental health professional, I always give my caveat when I've got people like Dr. Williams on. This should not substitute for you getting actual clinical help. There won't be any diagnoses happening here. But if you have a general question about mental health and how you're feeling and what you can do in terms of general coping mechanisms, by all means, drop it into the chat, type it in, and we can get that question up while I've got her on the phone. She's graciously taken her time tonight to be a part of this conversation, and I want to take every opportunity we can to provide healing, because that's part of why we're here. That said, let's talk about this, Dr. Courtney, in terms of this concept of grief. Traditionally, we think about your mourning and loss and anger and denial, but what are some of these general categories, and do they always happen all at once or at the same time or over a short period of time? Tell us a little bit about the grieving process and how this could perhaps be overlaid on things like even politics.
Yes, so one, I hear the word grief and mourning. We use grief and mourning sometimes interchangeably. And so I want to talk about the slight difference between the two. I think a lot of us have been doing both. So grief kind of speaks to the different emotional experiences, the things that we're having internally. And mourning is the process that moves us forward, you know, the reconciliation that happens. Um, and so there are different, we call them stages of grief, but I consider them to be more phases because it's not a stage typic process. It's not a linear process. So when we think about grief, you know, you think about the denial. And that's actually the word I have for myself.
How about that?
And I woke up this morning, I'm like, nah, it can't be. I'm going back to sleep. We're going to try this again.
Right.
So that was actually one of my initial feelings this morning. But you know, you go through the denial, you go through the anger, you go through the bargaining, you know, you go through the acceptance, right? And so sometimes it's hard to get to that place of acceptance and to reconcile what that looks like. And that's where the mourning happens, right? The process of mourning happens. Like, how do you move forward? How do you accept that this is what it is for right now and still move forward in your own process, in your own journey, in your own healing? And so I think about just all of that, and you know, we recycle through the stages or phases of grief. You know, there might be some moments where we're in denial, but we can change into anger, and sometimes you might oscillate between a few back and forth, and there might be certain things that trigger each of those experiences as well.
It seems as if this is going to be a circumstance and situation where we have to be able to give ourselves some grace as well, because there are things that could emotionally trigger this cycle. I think about just today, like I have not laid in heavily on any news channel. I've not spent a lot of time trying to over analyze statistics. I've not, but I know that if I'm riding along on the radio or if I go into a gas station and the wrong conversation is happening, I know it's going to bring back some of the feelings that I may have thought that I got through with a good meditation. And is that normal for people out there who may, as you said, not experience it in a linear fashion and think that it's all gone until something could possibly trigger that?
Yes, I do think that it is a part of the process. I think that acknowledging rather than trying to suppress or to deny your experience is actually going to help you move through the process more effectively. You know, I know a lot of folks that I work with, and myself included, you know, we talk about, you know, I don't have time to cry. I don't have time to fill in the blank. Like, I have to get to work, or I have to, you know, make the kids dinner, or I have to, you know, do all the things. And so, yes, and, you know, there's healthy compartmentalizing, yes. And you still have to acknowledge those feelings that are coming up. And give yourself grace and compassion with that process, because it's okay to have those big feelings. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel rage, you know, and just acknowledging that experience for yourself.
Well, that's awesome. Well, look, Dr. Courtney, I appreciate you taking a little time to come and just help us unpack some of these emotions. There are a lot of things happening out here in the world, and this is definitely a historic moment in American politics. And it's also the realization of, I think some of the anger comes from the contradiction that people feel. I heard a lot of people saying today, well, my cousin has a misdemeanor and he can't even get a job. And now we have a felon who is president of the United States. And I don't say that to be pejorative, to name call anybody. I just say that the cognitive dissonance that comes with people when they see the contradictions that come with privilege and what many would call a complexion for protection, that's another level of mental challenge to deal with too.
Yeah, Yes, you named it exactly. It's the privilege. It is the privilege. And that, for me, brings up a lot of feelings and reactions. The things that a mediocre white man can get away with that, for example, a black woman cannot. And so, you know, that just, it befuddles me. It is, it's crazy. And a lot of people are going to have a lot of reactions for a really long time because the system keeps working how it was designed to. You know,
Sure.
it keeps working how it was designed to.
Sure. So I guess I always say there are elephants in the room, there's furniture in the room. I can operate better when I know where the furniture is and where the elephants are. It's being in the dark about it that sometimes hurts. You hit your kneecap, you break your toe, you're trying to find your way in the dark, but sometimes when these things happen and you get to know what is actually in the room, you can at least navigate around the obstacles a little bit better. So as much of a wake up call as it can be for us to realize that, you know, 19th century America, 20th century America, 16th, 17th century America, not a lot has changed in terms of the construct of the system. So how do we now, during this wake up call, during this wake up moment, find a way to work and navigate through? And I think a lot of that comes from community. And I appreciate what you do to contribute not just to this community, but the various communities that you interact with on the regular. So you keep your head up and know that we're all sending you energy too.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I receive it.
All right. You know what? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. I want to make sure I didn't get any other questions. But look, we'll be talking to you soon, and thanks for making the time.
Of course.
All right.
Have a good night.
All right, you too. All right, y'all, as we wind this thing into not necessarily the wind down, but we don't want to stay on forever because I used to be in a 3-hour talk show environment and that kind of thing can keep you going. But I do have a couple of people that I do want to connect with that have been waiting. Brother Anton, I'm working to get back to you now, and if you could bring us back, I want to get your voice onto the radio there. I'm going to try you, call you directly, and hope you're not, just kind of sitting on the porch chilling. Say, why is Rev calling me on the phone? I'm returning the phone call. There he is. Is that Brother Anton?
Yeah.
Okay, man. Sorry, man. It took me a while to get you on. I got you on the air right now. On What Do We Do Now, man? Tell me what's on your mind, sir. How you feeling about these last 24 hours?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. But I'm determined to stay positive and determined to just move forward. So that's where I'm at. Just no matter what, I'm be successful and prosper. That's kind of my mindset. I'm not trying to let the noise get me.
Yeah, I think that's what, man. Especially when you have a lot of good things to turn out from within, a lot of gifts to put into the world, man. A lot of people can get caught up in this paralysis of analysis from what they think are the circumstances. But I'm glad to hear that you're pushing through that.
Yeah, I made on purpose. I got off of social media to just go within, just kill that noise.
Well, man, look, I appreciate you participating with us tonight, man. Blessings and love to you and the family, and it's always good to hear your voice.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. All right. If you got a quick call, if you want to get a call in, y'all, I will take a call, 629-204-4357. The phone line is open now. If you've been waiting to try to get that line, you can grab it and make a call right now. And in general, as we work to get toward the end of the show tonight, I want to say that I appreciate everyone that has called in and asked questions. Sister Shirley said, would you call the system tradition? I would definitely, it's called tradition. Tradition is backed up by systems, though. Systems. There could be traditions that people have that they do in their family, or traditions that people have in terms of how they look at the world. But without a system, it just becomes a small, scattered way of doing things. But what happens when you have an economic system that tells you that Valentine's Day is the day that you need to spend a lot of money to prove that you love somebody? Well, when you have a system that backs it up, you have Valentine's Day commercials, and you have Valentine's Day companies and candies, and you have aisles that are dedicated to Valentine's Day in the store. So everywhere you look, there is a system that backs up a tradition, no matter where the tradition came from. Do I have a tradition or a system that backs up a tradition of a holiday that my family and I made up? We've made up probably 5 or 6 holidays that we stick to. There's no system outside of our household that backs it up. So when you talk about what systemically is happening, when you talk about what is happening in the world in terms of this system, the system definitely feeds a tradition. And we have a system right now that is feeding a tradition that is making a lot of people uncomfortable. And you all, this is a spiritual community. I can say that it is. Some people here are members of Infinity. A lot of people are not. But I want to welcome you into this concept of building community, because one thing I will tell you, nothing beats a system like a system. And by that, I don't mean that a system is in competition. I mean that there are traditions that are codified that can help people grow. Y'all, Rev Jeff, when I say that, there are times where I have felt extremely down because of circumstances that I saw in the right now. And I say to you, those of you who are watching, those of you who have been around me, you know, I always like to say I'm from the future. And we don't act like this in the future. In the future, we see each other for who we truly are. Spirits navigating a human experience, and not human beings who are having spiritual experiences in these various different iterations that we put in a hierarchy based on the color of our skin, based on the content of our, not the content of our character, but based on our color of our hair, based on the size, where we come from, our ethnicity, our orientation, all of that. Look, in the future, all of that's gone, but we're in a present moment where we are working toward that future. So while my spirit lives in the future, I live in this body that is in the present, that is also building off things that we learned in the past, and that allows us to see the pattern. The pattern says that change is inevitable. And what I want to share with you all is that that change is inevitable. I'm putting up Tawana's comment up here as I grab my glasses. I was going to look for my glasses so I could find my glasses. Oh, the 50s. Sister Tawana says, appreciate hearing other perspectives. More conversations are needed in confined spaces and not online. Building community is essentially moving forward. Absolutely right. I think that pointing out and reaffirming to you, Sister Tawana, that Project 2025, all of these documents, 925 pages, were not made on Zoom meetings. They were not made on public YouTube broadcasts. They were not. I also know that there are some general principles that when we commit to can be instructive in the way we move forward. And there are some general things that we pull from history that will teach us what we need to be successful. I'm going to say this before I sign off. My goal was to sign off at about 9:30, and I think I'm going to stick to that goal. Thank you for those who are on different time zones who have stuck with us through this broadcast, and thank you for the perspectives that you've allowed us to share. But there are some things that I need to put into the atmosphere just so we understand where we're coming from. I know that people are hurting. I know that we all felt some kind of way, as my young people would say, to my young people who are out here. But there are some prescriptive things that we can do that can help us. I personally don't like conversations where everybody's pissed off all the time. I really don't like it. I love opportunities for us to download. You know, I'm in ministry. I talk to Muslims, Christians, Jewish folks. agnostics, atheists. I have all kind of people who come through the Infinity Fellowship. And if you're one of these people who has not had community, I'm inviting you. You got one now. But when I say that I talk to different people, there is a period where we allow ourselves to download and to offload, as Dr. Courtney would say, to allow ourselves to process this grief. There also has to be a period where we begin to move beyond that to do something, to actually make something happen. Because if you just have rage that is articulated, you got an amen corner. Everybody's shouting and saying, yeah, man, this stuff is wrong. I ain't going for this no more. This man, you know, after you go to 5 marches like that, and nobody's giving you a place to live, and nobody's helped you get a job or get skills to have a job, and nobody has sat down with you and loved on you and told you that you are seen and that you are valued and appreciated, that rage begins to eat you up from the inside. And you begin to chip away at your own sense of humanity, your self-worth. And yes, there are people that come along from time to time that give us that sense of hope. It gives us that sense of knowing, that sense of authenticity. Right that there, guy right there behind in the middle. That's me on the end, the guy back in the mic. The picture's way back here. If you got a big screen scene, that's President Barack Obama. I had a chance to meet him, one of my clients in the picture there, back when he was first running for office. And I will say this, there are people who argue, well, we didn't get a lot of specific things on the black agenda. All the people who stayed at home and decided not to vote or did whatever they did this week that hopefully they feel better about today. I don't know. I won't judge how they feel. But during that time, literally, it was a struggle. That picture is taken with President Obama. He was Senator Obama there, and he was an unlikely candidate, such that he couldn't even do a rally in this city, in this state where I am. Every single politician at the time I was doing some political work, they were saying to me, what are you doing? I said, I'm headed up to Ohio to help organize a rally at Ohio State University for Barack Obama. Almost everyone I encountered, why would you waste your time doing that? I'm talking about people who look like me. This is true confessions moment. This is the real side of Rev Jeff that I have to let you know I'm a human being too. I said, wait a minute, what? They said, why would you do that? He has no chance. He's got a funny name. You know, he's black, African, white, all of that. Hillary is the nominee. We need to get behind her. This is before Super Tuesday. It was literally the week before Super Tuesday. And so I felt like this was something that I could see myself in this. I could say, well, I didn't see myself particularly in Hillary at the time. Secretary Clinton eventually. But I traveled up there in the ice and snow. We did this big rally, and Senator Obama wanted to meet people in the basement. We came in the room. There are all these politicians. Everybody's got their big fur coats on. Everybody's, pontificating on what issues need to be in the legislature. And everybody's introducing themselves. Hi. And here comes this brother sliding in the room. He's just shaking everybody's hand. He comes up and he introduces himself and says, where are you from? So I'm from Tennessee. Tennessee, what are you doing up here? We just laughing and talking. And out of all the politicians in the room, he was the most genuine and authentic guy. True story. And I said in that moment, I said, man, he's all right. He's all right. When you meet somebody who does not carry pretense in rooms, I can say that my experience in that 10 or 15 minutes was a genuine experience. And to something that Brother Michael Craig said, that, the authenticity, the energy, and yes, the charisma was there. When I traveled back, I felt confident that I had not gone all of that way in vain. Then came Super Tuesday. All of those delegates went his way. And everybody who had been talking about he didn't have a shot once he became the nominee, guess who were the ones running around getting yard signs and putting up, talking about, oh, I'm so proud to support. They weren't supporting him when he was an unlikely candidate. Let me whip this back around to where we are right now. When you're looking at things from where we will be in the future, you also look at where we've been in the past. And I say this to everybody of all skin tones, of all hues and shapes, because that's what Infinity Fellowship is. If you hadn't looked it up, look it up online. I'll find a link to put up for you. I don't have a gorgeous intro and outro. When it's time to be over, I'm just going to say good night, sayonara, and sign off here. But what I will say is that when we think about and reflect on history, August Wilson said that the quickest path to universality is cultural specificity. That means that we tell our stories from whatever culture we are, and if we're authentic with it, people from other cultures will get that too. So one thing that I think about is someone like Harriet Tubman, who was a slave that escaped, who had a problem falling asleep because she had been hit with a large piece of lead in her head when she was a child. So she would randomly fall asleep. She would randomly pass out, had bouts of epilepsy. She should have just stayed in slavery. And yet she had this vision that she was supposed to lead people to freedom. And so she partnered with People Underground Railroad. We know the story. You could look back and say Harriet Tubman was insane. Why would somebody try to go against not just a tradition, as Shirley Tripp said, but also a system? Why would you have someone who would look and see thousands of other people who look like her getting along in a third, fourth class citizenship status? Why would that person say, this is not how it's supposed to be? Here's what I can do to change that. And put her life and limb at risk to not only escape, but to go back and get hundreds of other people. That's because she saw a future. She saw a purpose in herself that existed beyond the circumstances. So what I say to you, those of you who have joined me tonight, those who will share this, those who will amplify this message, listen, I wanted to keep it short so that somebody didn't see a stream and say, oh, it's 3 hours long, I don't want to watch that. Well, you know what? Sometimes you got to watch something that's 3 hours long. Sometimes you got to stand in a line that's 3 hours long. Sometimes you got to read a book that takes you a month to understand, because that is where the fruit will come from. But I still don't want to keep you on for 3 hours on a live stream. But for those who did join, for those who were a part of what we did tonight, for those of you who just needed a space to just let it out, know that while it is audacious to have hope, it is necessary for building. Do you have to put your plans on the internet? No. Do you have to walk around and tell everybody, here's what I'm doing, let me show you me popping bottles, let me show you everything? No, you don't have to do that. But must you commit to embracing a life's purpose that can see beyond the circumstances? Yeah. You should and you could. And I'm encouraging you to do, because what this world needs now, as Howard Thurman reminds us, is people who have come alive. And so I'm leaving you with the encouragement. I'm leaving you with the understanding that when people come alive, they walk in purpose. And when you walk in purpose, you make a change. We've seen communities built. We've seen people heal. We've seen people become doctors and lawyers. We've seen people under harsh situations like segregation. We've seen Reconstruction. We've seen the Civil Rights Movement. We've seen segregation. We've seen everything that oppressed people down, and we've still seen roots grow through concrete. And so I encourage y'all today, let the roots grow through concrete. I could pick on people that are in this chat that you don't know. Voices like Shirley Tripp, who's still creating music, as she has been for a long time. Brother Anton, who is still doing the same. Brother Joseph, Sister Stacy, Brother Andrew, who's still putting his business mind in the world. Sister Destiny, who's doing the same kind of work. Brother Terrence, whose mind for strategy and consulting is continuing to grow in his gift. And those are just people who I know. What about the people who I haven't had a chance to meet yet? Sister Tawana, education expert, beautiful mind. Listen. Y'all, there are so many great things that can come about when we focus on answering the question, not what do we do now, but what will we do now? So I'm going to leave you because I got some dinner waiting for me that I didn't get a chance to eat yet. And I don't want to eat too late because then I have to go run around the block. And I don't feel like running around the block yet because one of my neighbors still has a big Trump sign. So I don't know. I don't want to run at night right now, just out of an abundance of wisdom. But we got to ask that question, what will we do? And I want you to ask yourself, what will you do? And the answer to that question is everything in our power to be a part of change and good. Everyone to tap into their vision, to embrace who they truly are and their highest self, and to begin to see the humanity in other people. And I guarantee you, this thing is going to shift. I say this because I've built institutions my entire life. That's what I do. I'm a spiritual teacher, I'm a leader, I'm a guide. I teach people how to discover their divine selves and their divine purpose, and I build institutions that manifest the beloved community. That's what I'm here for. I was born to do it. I love it. I walk in it. I help people get there. That's what I'm there for. Listen, when you build an institution, first thing you got to do is clear some trees, dig up the brush, dig up the ground, level things out, whatever you're doing. If you build a house, when you do that, a lot of ugly stuff is going to come up. But you got to build anyway. When you're framing the walls, invariably something doesn't line up, and the codes inspectors say, you know what, you got to redo this, and it's going to be frustrating, but you got to build anyway. You don't just stop. When you're putting on the roof, you got to make sure things are in alignment. You got to make sure that codes comes through and inspects the plumbing, and sometimes things are off, and sometimes a law changes in the middle of construction. They say, well, we can't grandfather that in, and it's frustrating, but guess what? You got to build anyway. And I'm telling you the secret, that when you are building, when you are working, you get less frustrated. You get less you're not in a state of despair as much because you're actively working on something that is creating and being the change. You only get frustrated when you're not participating in being the change. So guess what, y'all? I feel like saying I need you. The reality is the entire world needs you. The universe needs you. It needs your brilliance. It needs your love. It needs your heart. It needs what you contribute to the world. Yes, yesterday was something that was mind-boggling, and I appreciate you all coming into this safe space to share and having your heart added to this place. But I'm going to invite you in this moment to recognize that the world needs what you put into it. You have a unique gift that nobody else thinks of. Those things that you think about at night and in the day, you're like, man, I wish somebody would. Well, the somebody that would, and the somebody that should, and the somebody that could, and hopefully the somebody that will is you. So let not your heart or your spirit be troubled, because now is not the time of obstacle. Now is the time of opportunity. And I can't wait to circle back on this and to see what you did when you got through the grief, when you worked through the mourning period. And as Dr. Courtney said, you moved to a place of action. Sometimes you got to take a couple of days off. Lord knows I know how that is. Brother Martin sends that love right into the box by saying, hey, keep your head up, everybody. Love you all. Love you, Rev. I love you too, man. It's great to have you on. Good energy. No night running, Rev. No, I'm not going to run tonight. I know a little bit better than that. Safety first. Listen, I want everybody, as we get ready to close this out, thank you for hanging with me tonight. I'm going to do something that's non-traditional. I didn't get an opportunity to always do when I was on the radio in a regular way. And that's an opportunity to just put ourselves in a frame of mind where we can focus our energy and our thoughts. So I want you, wherever you are, in a minute, we're going to play a little music and just let you type in something positive into the chat, something encouraging. But for right now, I just want you to sit still wherever you are. Sit a little taller in your chair. I just want you to take a great big old deep breath in through your nose. Just blow it out. Make some noises. I ain't afraid of being silly. Make some noise. Inhale. Give me a ha. Give me another inhale here. Give me a ha. Now just inhale and exhale slowly through your nose if you're able to. Close your eyes. Focusing on just the feeling of the breath. As it enters your body and heals your body, your mind, your spirit. We recognize in this space of alignment that all is well. And from this space of alignment and stillness, we recognize just a few things together around the world. We recognize that we are grateful to be here, to be alive at this age that may seem to be an age of division and destructiveness, but is really an age of opportunity. That we recognize in embracing the God of our acceptance and understanding, standing on the shoulders of those ancestors who came before us, that it is our time right now, that the future will reveal, that history in the future will speak to these times and how we all stood to walk in the light. And for the healers out there, I speak that they will continue to heal even more as they heal themselves and embracing others. For the teachers there, that they will continue to take deep breaths in the morning and walk into the light with these children and embrace the gift of influencing their mind in positive new ways. That new creatives out there will feel inspired, that our young people will continue to activate, that those who feel as if their vote does not count, for them to come to a place where they understand that it does. And if they feel as if it still does not, may their vote be manifest in building institutions, in reaching out to communities and families, and working from where they are to make good things happen. We give thanks for these pronouncements today. We give thanks for this safe space. We give thanks for those who have tuned in on the Infinity Fellowships page and portal. We give thanks to those who have tuned in on my social media portals and have shared this broadcast. And we speak that something has been shared tonight that has helped someone feel seen, that has helped someone feel heard, known, and most importantly, loved. As we continue to uplift one another, we speak the strength to operate in alignment with our highest purpose and destiny as we heal humanity and pull us all together. It is for these things and others that we cannot put into words that we give thanks in gratitude. Inhale and exhale. We seal these things together in word and in deed, and so it is. Let us all say together, Amen, Amen, Hotep, Shalom, Namaste. Ashe. There it is, y'all. Look, as we get ready to get on out of here, I'm just going to play a little bit of music so that we can rock and roll with so much soul. As we do, I'm going to put the chat window back on. I'm going to encourage those of you who are watching right now. I'm going to encourage you to say something positive in the chat. Send an encouraging word up in the chat. Say something good to somebody in the chat, whatever it is. Just put something in. I want you to give us a message of positivity. Say, keep on moving. Say, keep it rocking. Say, have an awesome night. Say, we got this. Something encouraging. Let's start a gratitude chain right now. Let's be grateful. What I'm going to do while we're doing that, I'm going to take a sip of tea and check the chat before I sign off. Let's do it. Let's see some gratitude. What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? Hey, come on, gratitude. This too shall pass. Ooh, y'all are not playing tonight with the gratitude. Y'all better bring it. We need to make a book of all of this gratitude. Y'all are dropping, what the young people say, some gems. All you young people out there, y'all are dropping gems too. We see it in there. We are our ancestors just like them. We can do anything. I'm going to keep this going. This is too good. Where's my tea? Y'all are blessing my spirit right now. Like the old folks used to say, I ain't going to let nobody steal my joy. We ain't going to let anybody steal our joy. How about that? It's going to be all right. I see you, Good Journey. I see you, Shirley. See you, Terrence. See you, Barton. It's a gratitude chain, y'all. Oh, what a great one. Better days are ahead. Soon come. We have everything we need to be, do, and gain everything we desire. Oh yes, T. Thompson. Every day is a new day. We can do hard things. We are mighty and powerful. I love y'all. I'm breaking every protocol from broadcasting by just saying y'all are awesome. I see you, Sister Tashana. Grateful for life. Look, y'all should hang on Sunday. Sunday broadcast, it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a good time. With this kind of gratitude in the room, we can do all things. I put up a little visitor's QR code for those of you who are later. If you've been to Infinity or if you've been a part of fellowship, before I sign off, while gratitude is coming in, I want to let you know that I see the real you and we see the real you. We want you to have an opportunity to let us know who you are. If you want to sign that, go ahead and put us a form in there. Let us know who you are. we'll reach out to you. We got the Nesbitts in the house. Sister Stephanie, I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. We're bringing poetry into, hey, look, we're doing some poetry in it. Robert Frost says it, 2 roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled by. That has made all the difference. Collective wisdom, y'all. Got Thea Jones coming in. Look, all I needed to do was give y'all a little bit of music so y'all can start thinking about gratitude. And this is great because on Sundays we start with gratitude and we start generating things that are good. Sister Thea said, cling tight to this community. Together we will continue to grow in love and have the collective power to endure. Oh, man. I love y'all. And I thank you all for the technology and us being able to be on today. Again, I left my keyboard at the office and was still able to broadcast from the living room. I love technology. I don't take it for granted. We're going to put a ticker up that just allows you to see. For those of you who have asked or who called and sent a text, thank you for the text. Y'all know this is free. All of this is free because this is our mission. But people are like, no, let us know how we can, give and put into the community. That's great if you're brand new. I tell you what, if I've got a caption here, I'll put it up as I get ready to sign off. Look, people still sending me texts like, oh, put it up. Okay, let me find it. While the gratitude is coming in. Okay, ticker at the bottom. If you want to drop something in Cash App or PayPal, by all means, no obligation. If you feel like you want to drop something in, you can. It's right there at the bottom of the ticker. I think the Cash App is $ Infinity Fellowship. PayPal is paypal.me/Infinity Fellowship. And we also, you can see that on the scrolling at the bottom. We also have where you can send in the mail too. But look, at this point, I want you to just do something great in the world. So if you feel like in your heart you want to do something, there's the ticker at the bottom. By all means, we appreciate it because this is a non-profit space. And we love the opportunity to be here to serve. We are a community. Now, I will invite you, as I sign off, to join us at Infinity Fellowship on Sundays. If you don't have a community that you are a part of in terms of spiritually, not necessarily have to be into church, that kind of thing, but if you want a place to build with, go look at myif.org. That's myif.org. I'll make sure that it gets into the chat. Visit that, say hello, reach out to us, and if there's anything I can do for any one of you, by all means, let me know. Reach out and let us know what we can do, and we'll be there for you. Listen, great talking to y'all tonight. What do we do now? We grow. What do? We keep building. What do? We remember what lies in the future, and we pull it into the present. I love you guys. That's a fact you cannot change. This has been Rev Jeff. I can't wait to see you, to possibly meet you. Share the broadcast with somebody you love who might need to be uplifted, and I'll see you on the other side. I'm going to get something to eat. Peace, blessings, and power. Ashe.